even of the line items is pretty solid at this point in time. We're going to highlight the big changes within this budget, and with that, I just am very happy to, probably for the final time, remind everyone of our mission in the Lunenburg Public Schools to prepare students for lifelong learning and responsible community membership. So that, along with our enrollment, is really the driving forces behind what we're doing in terms of developing a budget, because our budget is about our students. It's about our students in every one of our schools across the district and the classrooms that they are in. So you can see some highlights in terms of our student enrollment, some slight increases this year from last year. These are our October 1 numbers. One of the things that we keep track of is also our class sizes, and we are in that phase of starting to increase our enrollment once again. And with that increase over the last couple of years, we've begun to add additional teaching sections to certain grade levels where our enrollment has reached 125 or above. We start looking at it at 125 to add a 6th section to a particular grade level, and that plays out different ways with adding specialists to provide very important parts of our curriculum in physical education, as well as music and the arts, and also technology and library. So we look at those areas as our population continues to increase, and similar to when we had a declining enrollment, we were cutting back in sections, and as we continue to go forward, we're going to look at adding sections. And I anticipate as we look forward to a report about a strategic planning process that has been going on all this particular year with some consultants, as we look forward to a new mission being considered and adopted by this committee, as well as our vision and core values and an associated district-wide plan. We'll see how that new mission comes into play. And I can tell you that class size has been something that through that strategic planning process, we've heard from our parents, we've heard from our school committee members during the development of our proposal, and we certainly hear from our educators about our needs to really pay attention to those class sizes and make sure that we're giving all our students an opportunity to have that personalized and individualized educational program that comes with more readily with smaller class sizes. So as I said, most of our class sizes right now are around 23, 24, 25 students. And we're very, very disciplined around the fact that we don't open choice except at the high school level. We currently, in these numbers, there are reflected 47 choice students. But just the pink column there shows you the number of students that we have placed out of district who are receiving services outside our district. We also have then the enrollment across every particular grade level. And you can compare it from 2016 on actually, these are March dates appearing here, to March 1, 2017. So our overall population of students and seats has increased from 1,580 students to 1,629 students. This shows the grade levels and our enrollment patterns when we look at our particular schools and the grades grouped within those schools. So you can see that the blue line is the preschool through grade 2, which is our primary school, and you can see since 2013 of 386 was the enrollment there, and we've remained pretty steady going across the primary grades. That's our enrollment in 2017 as well. So a little bit of up and down. I can tell you that our enrollment at the primary school does have a bit to do with where we are in the school year, just simply because we have additional students who join our preschool program as they turn 3 and are perhaps receiving services in our preschool program. You can see the increases that we're seeing in our enrollment via this graph really are around those grade levels of 3 through 5, which is the red line. You can see some steady trending up there. And then our 6 through 8 enrollment. In fact, at the 8th grade, or at the middle school, 6 through 8, there will be 2 grade levels with 6 teachers on that grade level, and 1 grade level that has 5 teachers. So our high school, you can see, had that dip down, but is slowly gaining in its enrollment as we see more students attending our schools. So that's a nice overview of and that was the October 1 data to give the longevity and consistency in that. Here's our school choice enrollment trend. We welcome students under the school choice program into our schools. Those are primarily done at the 9th grade level, is where we open slots. We have opened 10 slots this year, and on the school committee agenda for tonight, there's a consideration to open a couple more slots based upon our waiting list at this point in time. And also we know more now about the numbers of students that are going to be attending Monte Tech Regional Vocational High School, as well as some moves out of our 8th grade level that have already been confirmed. So that item will be dealt with. But as I said, we have 47 students. The other part of our school choice population that is represented in these slides over time is we always provide the opportunity for any of our students who begin their high school career with us to basically end our high school career with us. So at 10th and 11th and 12th grade, we have that opportunity for those grade levels that if their parents move from our community and the students are able to be in attendance on time regularly every morning to continue with us and finish their educational program in the high school that they started their educational program is. That's pretty typical across our region to provide that opportunity for the students. I was telling you about our concern about making sure that our trend, you can see that our class size, our ratio trend is above that 12.9 of the state average. And so this is one of the things that we're mindful about. What's pictured there is the Lunenburg student-teacher ratio. And we've noted the statewide average for you. And once again, this is one of the major drivers as we begin to continue to work to develop the program and make sure that we're providing those necessary services for students in classrooms that are what we would refer to as appropriately sized in terms of their enrollment, so the students can receive that personalized education and that differentiated instruction that is so important for reaching all students and engaging all students today. I wanted to share with you in this slide our special population groups because over time you can see that these populations have increased or are variable. Our limited English proficiency group, these are our students who come to us who are acquiring English skills. You can see that we've increased from 18 up to this school year it was 23 is where is at this point in time. So that continues. We saw a substantial increase. I remember that it wasn't that long ago where our English, this group was 2 or 3 students a year. And it's just been wonderful to have so much diversity, and these students have really enriched our educational program, as well as the teachers that are now in place to provide them support. Our Title I program has been able to expand as well. So those are services to students who need some additional support based upon their testing and performance in reading and mathematics at the primary and the elementary grades. And you can see that with the support of the funding that flows from the federal government down through the state and to the local district, and it's based upon a formula that is tied to your low income numbers. It's not directly, those are the same students necessarily in Title I that generate the numbers in what we refer to as low income, but what drives that Title I funding for us are those the poverty levels within the communities in the census that comes out, and then a formula that's applied to that. And you can see that we really peaked last school year with the number. We've seen a slight decline this year in that. That may be a reflection of a stronger economy. We'll hope that's what that is. But certainly, we appreciate so many of the community services that are provided to make sure that our students, as well as our policies around making sure that all our students have access to our extracurricular activities. We have a policy in place that if a student is on free or reduced lunch, there are no fees assessed that student for participation in any of our extracurricular or athletic programs. And then our special services numbers are our students with disabilities, and you can see that's been variable over time as well. And with that's total numbers of students that are both in district as well as students that might be placed out of district. And with the hard work of all our educators and administrators, over time we have developed so many new programs within our public schools here at every grade level in every school to provide supports for students in order to ensure that we can educate as many of our students here in their neighborhood schools as possible and receive appropriate services. This slide it represents the total number of school-age students within our districts. That's the yellow bar. But then it shows the number that are enrolled of those total numbers within the various educational programs, with the local public school or our schools carrying the vast majority of there. So of the students in Lunenburg, they do have options with attending other schools under choice, or perhaps attending a charter school. Our students who are placed out of district are counted and shown in a separate bar in this, as well as students attending the private schools and students being homeschooled. But the vast majority, as you can see, of all our students who are school-aged here in Lunenburg are in the Lunenburg Public Schools. So our recommended school budget for next year in personnel costs, we're recommending $334,650, and for non-personnel expenses, a slight increase up to $6,267,399, for a total recommended school budget of operating budget of $19,602,049. But the facts behind those particular numbers, I think we've highlighted here. This budget is really a level service budget, is what it represents. And this level service budget, we've needed to make some exchanges to make sure that we're addressing the priorities that were identified. I do want to note at this time as well that if you watched the presentations by our principals, that there were many more requests than we were able to fill, and they were all solid requests. We're also working diligently. I really have to commend the administrative team within each one of the buildings. We share an assistant principal across the primary and elementary schools. We also share an assistant principal between the high school and the middle school. We do supplement the support in the administrative offices of the middle and the high school with a dean of students as well. But I know the recommendation and a long-term goal for us is to have an assistant principal associated with every one of our buildings. We feel that that will really support the kind of educational program and the overall safety and security of the buildings if we have both a principal and assistant principal there. Those assistant principals also help with that instructional support and supervision. The presence of an assistant principal within the building really allows that principal to be that instructional leader and move that with the teachers, and our leadership teams really move our curriculum and our instructional program to ever higher levels. So those are just some things on the horizon that we look for opportunities as we see what happens with this state budget. Right now, the House version of the budget increases the chapter or the circuit breaker funding for special services. It also has increased the Chapter 70 allocation by $30,000. Now we won't know. The Senate budget comes out, I think this Friday is when it's going to be released, and then there'll be a reconciliation between those budgets, and eventually, hopefully sometime early in July, we'll know what that state budget, the whole state will know what that budget looks like. But that's when sometimes we see some opportunities to do some additional things that maybe have been left out of this budget but have been well developed within the budget process. I would point to particularly any kinds of opportunities to lower class size that come as a result of either additional funding or changes within our school organization, if there might be some additional retirements or something. That doesn't happen that often, but it may happen. And we just always want to let people know what's on the horizon in terms of some of the goals that we're looking for, and in reducing those class sizes is one, and making sure the administrative support within each one of the buildings is solid to make sure that those programs are well supported, and our students as well as the educators are supported in their work, and the parents are able to have access, very timely access to any concerns or needs that they may have that the administrator needs to be involved with. Our principals and assistant principals certainly help with meetings, any kind of meetings going on for our students with disabilities, as well as 504 meetings, and a variety of other kinds of groups that they meet with on a regular basis. In this budget, we've added also a district-wide maintenance position. I think everyone is aware that we really decimated our maintenance and custodial ranks several years ago when the bottom fell out of the budget, and we needed to cut $1.2 million out. And one of the areas that we lost several members of our school community were in the custodial and maintenance area. And so over time we've built that back, and that's been very important to get those numbers back up in our custodial ranks as well as the maintenance ranks. buildings because we have this beautiful new co-located school, and we want to make sure that it's maintained appropriately so it lasts the 50 years that we need it to last and more. And we've really been pleased with the new folks that have come on board, as well as our current custodians that are really working hard to make sure that all our facilities are kept in good stead. This district-wide maintenance position provides that preventative maintenance as well as any repair maintenance that needs to be done. Our primary school, I know we still look to it and say that's a new school for us. 2005 is when we opened it. But that school is reaching an age where we need to make sure that we are doing that regular maintenance to keep that building in shape. I wanted to pause there for just a second to also give an update in terms of our projects around the security cameras for our primary school and Turkey Hill Elementary School. We had a volunteer in the building last Saturday, and I think again this Saturday, is that correct, Mr. Londa? A couple volunteers actually who are laying the cable, are putting the cable in the trays for the new security camera installation. So we bought the wire or the cabling, and the volunteers are running it through the building to the locations where the cameras will be located, and then the company will come in and put those security cameras there. So we're really appreciative of the fact that the school committee supported our efforts to repurpose some funds out of this year from the utility budget in order to respond to that need, particularly after that concern of that intruder coming in to the after-school program at Turkey Hill Elementary School last fall. So it's been a great community effort, and we were very fortunate to have that wonderful opportunity of having those excess utility funds to be able to repurpose to get those cameras not only in the primary but in Turkey Hill Elementary School. The capital project that will be voted on at the annual town meeting contains another important piece of the cameras going into Turkey Hill Elementary School, and that's the asbestos abatement that needs to take place in order to then be able to get in the ceilings, to get the cabling up, to put the cameras in. So those processes are coming to, I think, fruition and merging together, and we look forward to starting our school year next fall with those cameras in place at both the primary school as well as Turkey Hill Elementary School. And then, of course, our new building has state-of-the-art security and the camera system that's located in that. And we've talked about our new cameras on our buses as well, and just the benefits in terms of providing that safe, secure environment, and that information that we can see when something does happen, what took place, and then get to resolution. I think everybody was frustrated by the fact that we didn't have a photo of the intruder that we could have shared to try to locate that individual at the time that happened. So our district-wide maintenance position is added in this. In the next slide, or a couple slides, you're going to see that Mr. Londa was basically able, with the savings he's generated in utilities, some of that coming from contracts that are just lower, the natural gas, as well as the amazing solar projects that are going to provide us a lot of energy savings. I was talking to Mr. Londa today because I said, your funding really is being repurposed to make sure that we get the maintenance position in there, because that basically covers that new added position. But over time, I really would be negligent if I didn't point out to the community that Mr. Londa has been about energy savings since he joined us 19 years ago. And he crossed the $1 million mark in terms of savings generated by the projects that he has put into the district since he's been with us. And those are the kinds of things that make such a difference in terms of ensuring that we're driving dollars into the classroom. So we really take very seriously our responsibility to be good stewards of these tax dollars that the citizens give us, and make sure that they're serving our students well, and make sure that we're taking care of these wonderful facilities that we've been provided, and making sure that they're going to last a long time. Our students have just been outstanding around that as well, and I really want to commend them for their leadership as we occupied that new building this year. And across the board, our students are just very respectful of the facilities, and join all of us in being grateful for them and making sure that they last. This budget adds a part-time school psychologist at Turkey Hill Elementary School, and this will assist with referrals as well as doing testing for students who might be referred and need some specialized programming. This allows our counselors to focus on the students, delivering more therapeutic services instead of being involved in that testing. It also allows us to building base our school psychologist and counselor at the primary school, and then have a counselor and a part-time school psychologist at Turkey Hill Elementary School. So we really feel that has been a benefit this year. We made that shift about 3 months into the school year, 2 or 3 months into the school year. The school psychologist this year was out of contracted services, but our intent is to hire that position in terms of the value for the dollar. Contracting for services is an expensive proposition. We understand that hiring and having benefits associated with an individual is as well, but when we do the math and when we look at the value of having that person that's dedicated just to our community and has a regular schedule to be in our schools, the benefits are there. And so that's why we're moving that part-time school psychologist position into a hired personnel rather than a contracted personnel, which shifts it from the non-personnel side. Contracted services are on the non-personnel side of the budget, and they are on, if we hire, then of course they're on the personnel side. Since we're increasing by one section at the middle school of classrooms, we also want to increase a PE/science educator who's currently at 0.8. An additional class basically brings the need for at least 5 more periods of teaching for that particular classroom. So we've increased that PE science position from the 0.8 it is this year to a full-time. We've also found a need to make sure that everyone can have access and get scheduling done or make changes during the summer, to add 12 days to the high school guidance secretary's work contract. Those are distributed across the summer to make sure that our families, any new families coming in, our students that may want to come in and rethink and maybe tweak their schedule for next year, that they're provided that opportunity. It'll also provide us the opportunity to make sure that in that week or two before the school starts, the school guidance counselor secretary has always been been there a week before, but having that individual really targeting another 5 days before the school year will be very helpful for families who sometimes wait until just before school starts to think about those changes, or even enrolling at that point in time. And we understand it's summer, and people are thinking about other things. So we want to make sure we have our resources lined up so those students have a positive start, and they're not sitting in the guidance office waiting to get scheduled those first couple days of school, but they've had that opportunity to do before school started, and then those initial days of school, they're ready to go in the classrooms where they're enrolled. Finally, the high school administration has indicated that we need to add a humanities teacher once again as we begin to have that population moving upward again. Several years ago, we eliminated an ELA position. Or a couple of them, and we've restored half of that because one of our restorations was hiring a teacher a couple years ago who does both ELA and social studies, hence humanities. So what we're looking at here, we have several options. We know what our needs are, and we'll be looking for an individual that can either teach ELA or an individual that can teach that history social studies, or an individual that can do both. It seemed appropriate just to label it as this humanities teacher, because indeed it may be a combined ELA and social studies history teaching position. In order to do those things, we needed to reduce paraprofessional positions. We reduced 4 of those in the budget, trying to find that, making sure that our students are appropriately supported, and yet being very conscientious of the needs in our classrooms for teachers and other supplementary services. We find that we don't see our pathway to being able to sustain the 7th grade foreign language position at this point in time. We were very hopeful to try to restore that and move that forward, but where our enrollment is right now and looking for those synergies between our buildings, we feel at this point in time that our students for years have been taking that level 1 as 8th graders and not having it over the 7th and 8th grade level. It is intense for them, there's no doubt. That's important that we continue to provide foreign language at the middle school, but at this point in time, we feel that we can no longer maintain this position unless something changes within this whole budget scenario, as we've talked about before. But at this point in time, we're looking at a reduction. Likewise, the music instruction at the Turkey Hill Elementary School will be reduced from a full-time position to a part-time position. There's a factor going there of a reduced number of classes or classrooms there at the elementary school. It was 656 this year. It'll be 565 next year, and so that in itself decreases the need. We have a part-time art teacher there. We have full-time PE teacher at Turkey Hill Elementary School. We have IT/media or library teacher there. So we have these good, rich programs, and it is finding the right balance in terms of making sure we're providing those services and that important curriculum to students. But when we have decreases in the number of classrooms, we need to adjust there as well. And we understand that. That's how this works. That's about our enrollment driving our practices. We would love to have the luxury of having additional enrichment times and those kinds of things, and we try to do that as much as possible, but we have to balance the needs across the entire district, and so for us, for the next year, it means taking this full-time position and moving it to part-time. This is an information pack slide, and I think best viewed online when you can zoom in and look at it. But over time, we've just kept track of where we have been relative to the number of administrators. The non-educator professionals are positions like Mr. Londa is in that particular category, as well as the HR director, business managers. That's a slash. That's one person is in that category, and then the remaining FTEs that are noted there, we really don't have 4.10 people. We have that equivalency of full-time work. Our network director is shared with the town. Our director of IT is shared with the town, and so only portions of their time is counted in that factor. And we also have a full-time IT coordinator that we added last year that's counted in that particular non-educator professionals is how it's listed. You can see that our teachers, counselors, and therapists increase from that 135, almost 136. You see the 0.8 there of that PE science teacher at the middle school, and so it increases up to 137 with adding the teachers that we did. One teacher was an exchange, remember, a foreign language came out, and the other, we added a part-time school psychologist as well. Our nurses stay the same, one for each building, or one for each school, I should say. Clerical and technical support, this includes central office, clerical support, as well as the clerical support within each one of the buildings. That remains unchanged. Our paraprofessionals, you see it's reflected that reduction of 4 from 57.3 to 53.3 paraprofessionals, and the custodial and maintenance position, you can see, is increased by 1 there. So we do have our smaller schools, our building footprints have part-time evening custodians. So that's where you start to get some of these fractions coming up. So from 14.3 to 15.3. So our totals in terms of our personnel working in the district goes from 233.52 to 231.72. I think that's a wrong number, because that should have, no, that's the correct number, I'm sorry, with the decrease of 4, yeah. So once again, this is in the packets. It will be posted online, and we certainly can talk in more detail, but we give that long history around that. And you can see there's variability in that, because this is what we do every year, is look at how the pieces fit together to maximize those services to the program. Our non-personnel, just some highlights there. Once again, level service with some exchanges. Our transportation under the contract that we have, it's a 3-year contract. This will be the 2nd year of that 3-year contract, and the percentage increase amounts to $26,123. Now, health insurance is increasing not only because of the increase that we see relative to the amount of the increase 5.63. When you look at this on the spreadsheets, I think the increase reflected there is more like 17%. And the reason for that is last year we began our in FY17 for this current fiscal year, we began our budget process with an anticipated increase of about 8%. And so that's what we had budgeted. And then when the renewal actually came in, and it came in pretty late last year, I think it was in February or March that the renewal came in, and it was close to 12%. So we were far along into this budget process at that point in time. So in order to fill that gap last year, we utilized some choice funds that had been generated for the last couple years, because we had seen some additional student money and choice that was generated as a result of the number of students that maybe moved out who were in 10, 11, and 12 years. That's really hard for us to predict how many of those students are going to happen. But over the couple of years, we had built up some reserves there. And so we utilized that in order to fill that gap that we had in the budget, to keep moving forward, to make sure we had in place, given our reconfiguration and the opening of the new building, all the positions that we needed to have in place. That was a conscious decision. But that choice money, that particular choice money was one-time money. Once we spend it this year, it's gone. And so we've needed to absorb that increase this year into that budget line. So that explains what's happening in that health insurance line. Our special education tuitions right now are showing an increase overall of $264,807. We've had some move-ins. We also, this is the dynamic area of the budget, because I know Mrs. Hanscom just today reported to me that she had a recent meeting, and a student who has been in an out-of-district placement will be returning to the district. And we always work towards doing that. We'll need to put some supports in place now, so there will be some savings with regard to that tuition money and transportation, but we'll need to offset that perhaps with some added personnel in special ed. And we'll bring those to you as they come. I think the committee, as well as the public, sees that happen now with this very dynamic area of out-of-district tuitions. But it's a very transparent process, and I know the school committee always asks very good, solid questions around that for us to be able to say, this is why we're doing it. So the money is still being spent, generally speaking, on students with special needs or services for students with disabilities. However, it may be in a different format. Instead of a tuition, it's a paraprofessional salary. We also will need to include in this budget, and this came in after it was set, $36,000 that was previously funded. Our technology was being funded out of the capital, and there's been a decision to move it back into the budget lines, and that has happened in the past. That funding has a history of going back and forth. Maybe we've decided on it now. We've decided on it at least for next year, that's for sure. So that will need to be, needed to be put into our budget lines. And then we also have some additional contracted services. We're adding 2 more fields, actually 2.3 fields with the finishing of the front field. And so we needed some additional money there. The overall increase is at $19,200. It brings that total for contracting out for that support to make sure we're maintaining those new fields that we have in an appropriate fashion to right around $30,000. I think it's $30,450 to be exact. The decreases that help support that are generally a decrease in the natural gas, and that was just the rate change that we were seeing and how it translated across our budget, plus some of the decrease that resulted this year just from we had purposely added to those utility lines as we moved into a new building and didn't have a history. We had some projections, but we didn't have a history, and we did not want to be caught short this school year relative to those utility costs. But we had some very positive things happen in terms of the rate change in natural gas, and also you can see the electrical savings. We have some this year. We also have some next year that will be added to that as our new solar array comes online. And while I'm talking about the solar array, we're going to have a ribbon cutting, probably the 22nd or 23rd. We'll be sure to announce that. Solex is going to assist us in really celebrating the completion of that project. And we also, our good friend and just wonderful photographer, Eric Vickery, did a nice drone flyover, and so it's really hard to see the solar panels up on the high school. In fact, you can't unless you get up on the roof, and obviously not everybody can go up there. So Mr. Vickery was so kind to take his drone out and get some really great shots. So that'll be posted as well. So we hope a lot of people can come help us celebrate that ribbon cutting that will be coming up for the solar project. Right now, the curriculum adoption line shows a reduction of $79,000. That's based upon the $119,000. We've been utilizing what's referred to as the 40S funding. It's special funding that comes out from the state. Every year, our legislators do a great job. There's only 2 communities in the state that get that funding, and our legislators have done just a really wonderful job of making sure that that money continues to flow with us. And we know that money can go away at any time, and so what we have done as a result of that is basically make sure that that's going to our curriculum renewal and purchases that have at least a 5 and more likely a 10-year shelf life in terms of being there. So we're using that money wisely through the great curriculum renewal process that's been going on, that so many of our master teachers have been instrumental in coordinating and bringing to fruition for us. There is currently in this budget, at this budget bottom line, $40,000 in curriculum adoption, because we do need to keep that moving forward even without these funds. If those funds become available, those will be flowing as well. But they show as a reduction in curriculum adoption at this point in time, just because the funding is not assured. And that's also happening in the omnibus project budget as well. So we have money for curriculum adoption. We certainly can put to good use some additional funds there as science, social studies, ELA all are going through. We've done some math already. I don't know that there's going to be a lot coming out of the math curriculum. Was probably one of the curriculums that had the least amount of changes as we look at the frameworks over time. Science is huge, though. The needs in terms of updating our science curriculum based upon the new frameworks, and they're very exciting. The teachers are just so excited to get into this work, and because we know how enthusiastic our students are going to receive this, because it's learning science by doing science. It's really hands-on, project-based, and that's why we need to really redo all these materials to help support that. But a very exciting science curriculum that we're also working on some projects with our local conservation, as well as the Stormwater Task Force. Will be doing in every building. Students will have the opportunity to learn about how to protect our water and through the stormwater, taking care and making sure that we're not using very many pesticides. That's just one example of something we can do. But we are partnering with the folks on the Stormwater Task Force, and there will be a unit at in every school that really reinforces this. So through the units already, we do water a lot. We know about water cycle. It's a natural fit. So we're very excited, and have really enjoyed putting that project together, and look forward to this new science adoption. I wanted to show you on this next slide that I must have hit while I was turning around talking, just our trends. Everybody knows this story in terms of the health insurance costs, and such an important piece of what we provide for our employees to keep everyone healthy and have that access. You can see here, though, the total cost And then the next bar shows you what's paid out of the operational budget, and then the smaller bar is what comes out of grants or a choice. And I think this really does a nice job of demonstrating that shift last year, where the out of the revolving funds or grants, the additional amounts being taken out for insurance, and then that going back down this year. We still don't know, we don't have from the state our allocations relative to the Title I, as well as our special services, the IDEA grants, which are two very big grants for us and do carry some insurance costs in them when we write those grants. Those are tied up in the federal budgeting process and then flow through to the states. So it will probably, based upon what we see coming out of Washington right now, I anticipate that it'll probably be summer before we get some final numbers around those grants. So we'll wait and we'll see, and we'll make the adjustments as appropriate. I wanted to show this next slide because I think it really demonstrates that shift in terms of the purple bar shows our out-of-district tuitions that are paid over time, going from 2003. You can see how they really grew over the next couple of years, and then very dramatic as we started put those programs in place and provide opportunities for students to receive the services here or return here to receive the services. So you can see how the total cost is declining. The blue line is the state funding that's provided on a reimbursement basis. It's called circuit breaker. And so we get the funding to support that, and you can see how that funding relates to the total cost. The operational budget support is the red bar, and then finally or the private tuition costs are indicated there on the red bar. There's two kinds of tuitions, private and collaborative. And so that shows you what's in the budget for each of those designated kinds of placements where tuition's being paid. And the numbers are down below to give you additional information so you can see those totals and how much is coming out of the operational budget, which is basically the red and the green lines, and how much is coming from the state support. And remember that I shared with you that right now the House budget has increased the amount that we, I think they added $4 million. $4 billion to that particular fund in order to support additional payments to local districts. So that's our budget presentation. I know that the school committee is pretty familiar with this, but we do want to open it up for questions at this time, and I can go back to any slides if I need to. If somebody'd like.
So now we'll open this up for questions from the public. Okay.
Phyllis, do you want?
Yeah, again. Thank you. You know the drill.
Phyllis Luck from 50 Sunset Lane. When I look at the maintenance of ground contracted services, it says that it went up $65,000.
But it didn't. That's the wrong number. That's the number that I gave you. That's $30,450. And the other piece that's in there now is where we're getting the money to fund the IT.
Oh, okay.
The IT money isn't in there. That actually was a typo.
Oh, okay.
When I put the budget together, and John spotted it. But by that time, we knew that the IT costs were, the capital planning was going to come back. So I said, we're in luck. We had this bad
Okay, so it's just a
number.
mistake.
So it is.
So what should it be?
It should be $30,450.
So this should be $30,450.
Yeah. And then what the IT, the capital plan is 36, I believe it's 36.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Good question. Good eyes.
Unless there are no other questions, any questions from the committee? Then we'll close the public hearing
Thank you, Mr. Mack, and I do want to acknowledge the work of so many people. Certainly Sandy Curley, who just recently announced her retirement and will be with us in June when we honor all the retirees. Is an amazing HR person and business manager, and she has put together so many spreadsheets and assisted us in so many ways, and assisted so many personnel as well. So, we are sorry to see her go, but we are excited for this next phase for her as well, and glad that she'll be joining us so we can honor her. Certainly Carrie Cooper, who's our data manager, and Mrs. Peterson, who does everything and then some for everybody. And that's not an understatement as well. And I am so appreciative to all the folks, the principals, for putting together the initial numbers and giving such articulate presentation of the needs and advocating for our students, and all the folks from behind the scenes who help us put this budget together, Mr. Londa, Mr. Maladrinos, and certainly the teachers all contribute, because it really starts with them, particularly around our materials purchases, etc., because it's their voices that generate those kinds of items coming forward for purchase. So it really does take everybody in the district. The budget touches everybody in the district, and they all contribute to this as well. So thank you for your support and for allowing me to present this year's budget, and giving you a heads up around if we have some opportunities, depending on what happens at the state, the kinds of things that we're going to start looking at, and in future budgets as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Combs. Now, what we would like to do is, I'll take a motion to adopt the bottom line to the budget, going into town meeting with that as being supported by the school committee. So I'll take a motion to approve the bottom line of $602,049.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the bottom line of $19,602,049.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Done. Now we have open public comment. Any?
I would like to take a moment to recognize our chair.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to take a moment to recognize our chair, Mr. Mackin. This is his last regular meeting as our chair. He has dedicated years of service to this community and to the students of the town of Lunenburg. It goes back 9 years when he started as a member of the school committee. He became an official voting delegate of the MASC and attended several conferences. He moved from there to 2009 and 10 and was voted as vice chair of the school committee. He then stepped away from the school committee for a year to work on our town finances. Then went back in 2011 and was re-elected to serve as a school committee secretary. He was on the finance committee as a representative, a capital planning committee representative, a Lunenburg High School council representative, and an advisor to the Representative Benson's round table. In 2012 and 13, he was voted to serve as vice chairman of the school committee and the school building committee chair. He has done a great deal of work to get that building up and running, and I don't know that any of us on the school committee would have done a better job. He is now, in 2013 and 14, he's the vice chairperson. He is still a voting delegate at the MASC, a legislative representative, the finance committee representative, the capital planning committee representative. The list goes on. And right now, he is a chairperson for our school committee, a delegate of the MASC, a legislative representative, finance committee representative, school building committee chair, and aren't you something for the Democratic committee in the town?
Vice chair.
Vice chair of the Town of Lunenburg Democratic Committee. I don't know, you are a face of Lunenburg, and we will miss you sorely on this committee.
I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
present you with this plaque in appreciation.
And Mr. Mack and I have flowers. And sharing. Yeah, because we know that the spouses and families behind our school committee members give up a lot in terms of, well, you heard it. The list just goes on and on and on. Because it's not just this meeting a couple times a month. It's, several committees and just a lot of time and effort. And then to put a building project on top of it, just double or quadruple it. So our students are so fortunate because you've made a difference for them. And you were a gift to our community, you've been a gift to our schools, and it has been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am so much more comfortable being underappreciated.
Too late for that. Too late for that. One too many meetings.
Quickly to the chair's report, I just wanted to take the moment of the chair's report to thank everybody, to thank every member of this current committee, all the committee members that have been serving throughout the time that I've been involved. I particularly want to thank the chairs that I have had the opportunity to serve under, starting with our now representative Jen Benson, Dave Reif, Greg Berthium, Dr. Greg Berthium. Everyone has contributed, and everyone I've learned something from. I want to thank in particular Superintendent Combs. We met today and I said that I've learned a lot about how to manage conflict, how to make sure that we are aiming for the best for our students. I felt like we had a wonderful partnership when it came to many things, and particularly during the school building phase. We were constant companions running back and forth to Boston and doing meetings there, and it was a wonderful process. And reflecting back, we were doing a little reflection today, and there was lots that we could be proud of in what has occurred in that period of time. When we were on my first meeting, we were talking about the need for a school, and here we are, there's a school. We were talking about the difficulties with providing for technology, given the problems with that particular school. We now have a one-on-one environment. We have talked about revamping curriculum, and along the way we've done a great deal of work in revamping curriculum. For years we talked about creating an adult lifelong learning program, and we're on our way to launching one. So I think we can be very, very proud.
Yes, I think you should be.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I do have a couple of other pieces of business that I'd like to address at this time. We have a couple of resolutions that we would like to address. We have before us a resolution for school nurse day resolution. I'll read it quickly. Whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at its peak, and whereas school nurses are members of the school-based mental health teams, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to take a positive difference for children every day, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee celebrates and acknowledges the accomplishments of the school nurses and their efforts of meeting the needs of today's students by improving the delivery of health care in our schools, and offers gratitude for the district's school nurses who contribute to our local communities by helping students stay healthy, in school, and ready to learn. It is therefore resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee proclaims May 11th, 2017, to be School Nurse Day, and strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our nurses for their dedication and devotion to their work. In addition, we have Teacher Appreciation Week resolution. Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely different differing backgrounds, and whereas our country's future, depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community, now therefore be it resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee proclaims May the 11th through 12th, 2017, to be Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to work. I'll take a motion to approve these two.
Motion to approve both proclamations.
All righty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. All righty, we have warrants that are on the table. As usual, if there are any questions, you can direct them to the superintendent. We have minutes for the policy subcommittee. So there's only 2 members of the policy subcommittee that will be necessary to approve those minutes. So go ahead and approve them.
They're approved, right, Wendy? Would have to might make a motion to approve the minutes from our policy subcommittee meeting on March 8th.
Second.
Okay, they're approved. Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Yay, finally.
Yes, thank you.
On to Robbie.
Out here in the wings because I was coming back here. I am so delighted to introduce Mr. Robbie Nash, who is here, who was our Project 351 ambassador this year. And I'm going to ask Robbie to come up, and I don't know if you want to work this or if you want my assistance, but it's queued up and ready for you. And here's your mic, and maybe when you get up here, would you introduce your parents who joined us here tonight too, Robbie? Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to you then. So the arrow's right.
That's what it's supposed to be about, isn't it? Okay.
So good evening, everybody. So I'm Robbie Nash, and I'm our Project 351 ambassador for Lunenburg this year. And my parents are here, my mom, Carrie Nash, and my dad, Bob Nash. So Project 351 is a youth-led statewide service initiative where every year 1 8th grader from each city and town across Massachusetts is chosen. Then we go to Boston and we come together in 3 statewide service initiatives across the year. They are Spring Service, 9/11 Tribute Service, and Fall Service. And Project 351 trains their ambassadors to be role models in their community and try to make a difference in their communities. So the first time we came together for Project 351 was on launch day, which was January 14th, 2017. Now what we did there was all ambassadors met up at Boston at Faneuil Hall, where Governor Baker was there, First Lady Lauren Baker, and WBZ's Lisa Hughes, where they kind of got us motivated to go out and serve. From there, all ambassadors went to a different service site where we would try to make a difference. So this is a picture of Governor Baker, Lauren Baker, and WBZ's Lisa Hughes. She was interviewing them during launch day. So the launch day service locations were the Greater Boston Food Bank, where they worked to end hunger, the Pine Street Inn, where they worked to end hunger, Cradles to Crayons, where they provided care and support for children, the DCF Kids Fund, or in the Service Village at the State House, where they provided care and support for children, and the Edwards Middle School, where multiple projects took place there. They worked to end hunger, transform the school's learning environment, provided gratitude and care for veterans, and they provided care for the homeless. So what I did on launch day was that I went to the Cradles to Crayons headquarters, and what we did there was we took all the donations that they received and we sorted them out to make sure they had no rips or stains. And that's a picture of where we were. And this was my team, because all the 351 ambassadors were broken up into teams, and then from there we went out to all the different locations. And this, after we went to our service locations, we all met up at the John F. Kennedy Library and Museum, where we had a little celebration to end the day. And this is a picture of glass windows that they had there, where it was really tall and you could just see out into the Boston skyline. And on launch day, as a total for all the ambassadors, we impacted 35,559 people. And then Spring Service is the first initiative where all the ambassadors go back to their hometowns and they try to get their communities involved. So what I did is that I ran a little drive at our school where I put a donation bag in each homeroom in the middle school. I also reached out to the high school student council to ask them for donations and inform them about what we were doing. So these were my donation bags. We created 20 of these and put one in each homeroom in the middle school. We also brought those to the student council meetings where we collected the clothes. After we collected all the donations from the classrooms, my dad's truck was filled up, and that's a picture.
Awesome. Lucky he has a truck.
And after I collected all the donations, we brought them home and we sorted them for quality. So we made sure they had no rips or stains. And then from there, we loaded them up into my mom's car and we brought them out. It's like we brought them to BJ's and Leominster, and from there they were shipped out to Boston, where they'll be distributed to kids in need throughout Massachusetts. And for Spring Service, we collected over 950 articles of clothing, which that was 28 bags being donated to Cradles to Crayons. And so on our shirt, on the back, it says "Out of many one." Project, or it says "E pluribus unum," which that means "out of many one" in Latin. So what that means is that we're all great on our own, but when we come together and work as one, we can do things that we never thought were possible. Thank you, and hope you all have a great night.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, it was a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yes, great job,
What a great
Robbie.
representative for our
You know, we are always so proud of our students, and I am so proud of our community for sending an ambassador like Robbie, and we've been doing this since the first days of Project 351, and I think that's something to be proud of. I think it really represents our values in terms of coming together as one, and Robbie, you are just a great ambassador for us, and I want to thank you for being here. It was inspiring to me to hear you, but it was inspiring to me to have you in the audience, and Eliza up here as well. You always represent our school so well, and to do a budget and to see firsthand why we're doing this budget, to have our students here and their voices being heard. This is our future, and that's why we do the work we do, and I'm grateful to you. I'm so grateful to your parents for, obviously, it was a family activity as well. So thank you for sharing him with us, and best wishes. Your future is bright, and we're so glad to have you here with us, Robbie, so thank you. So I know you have homework to do, right? It's fine. I actually need to move this podium around, and then Mr. McAuliffe will be coming up and talking about our summer fun
summer
camp.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So thanks again, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So nice. What a great job he did presenting as an 8th grader.
Ron Hyatt was the first Project
impressive,
351 when he, Ron Hyatt was the first
He
one.
wants me to cry.
That's what I'm up here and I'm getting like emotional. That was simply keep moving.
He did a fantastic job.
Oh my goodness. You guys out.
Busy day.
Always a busy
I'm looking for lunch.
So I wanted to introduce Mr. McAuliffe, who needs no introduction, I know, as a teacher and our AD and coach. But Mr. McAuliffe wears another hat for us in that he is one of our 15, 16 master teachers within the district as well. And this is his project that he will be presenting. It was developed under that project, or under the master teacher program. And I'm so excited about this concept that Pete brought and how he's developing it, because this is really our avenue forward to ensure that all our athletic programs are supported well, and our ultimate goal is to see if we can lower that participation fee. So our first goal is to get full support for our programs, and our second goal is to start lowering the fee, the individual fee. So Pete, tell us about summer fun.
Summer fun. I'm working without notes, but I think I know it after a year of looking at this. I guess the idea was with our new building to create some new opportunities for us, and having talked to a number of other athletic directors in schools in Massachusetts, in Central Mass, a lot of schools were running camps in the summer, and they were very popular. I think took a little different approach to it. We threw it out to all the staff and asked teachers to, if they wanted to get involved and think about things that they would like to teach outside of the school year, something they had a passion for, something that maybe they don't get to do during the course of a regular school year. So we had a number of people get involved. It's sort of I guess a traditional day camp setup. We're going to run, the regular hours would be 8 to 4. We allow for early drop-offs and late pickups and that type of thing, just trying to accommodate everyone that we can, using the people that they already know, the teachers in the school system, to teach the courses. Once we know what courses we'll run, then we'll look for some of our recent graduates or even some of our senior students to act as assistants or junior counselors, however they want to deem it. But for the parents sending their kids off, it'd be sort of like sending them to school with people you trust and programs you know, and the facility that we now have that lends itself for this. We thought about this a number of times over the past, 20 years or so, and our facility was never quite there. Now that our fields are done and the building itself offers so many opportunities, that we're looking at hopefully getting enough support from the community for this. We're going to run, initially this year, we're going to run for 3 weeks. The 26th, starting with the week on the Monday, the 26th of June. The following week, of course, is the 4th of July week, so we're going the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then the 10th to the 14th. Everything would take place on site at the school. We're busy developing all of the written plans that have to be there for the state to license us as a camp. Meet all the requirements of the Department of Public Health and all of those types of things, which, as I found out, was quite a bit of things to go through.
Yeah.
So the regulations are there. They're very similar in most cases. Almost all of these things are practices we already have in place. We're fortunate. One of the bigger things is, of course, health, wellness of the students and their medical needs and things, and since most of the kids are going to be our students, we already have their records with the nurses, and nurses are familiar with the students, and so those types of things are a real plus for us, that we don't have to kind of recreate the wheel on that.
Now, if this is successful this year, will you extend it longer next year?
Yeah, I would like to see it go 6 weeks or so in the summer, and really give, I know that when you nail down a week, you eliminate some people who, so, that first year, we really just want to get off the ground.
Okay.
It'd be fantastic if we're overwhelmed with students.
Right.
But if we just get it off the ground and then start working on expanding it next year, getting more teachers involved, people get a better idea of maybe thinking from the beginning of the school year what they might want to do. And some of the teachers who got involved weren't necessarily thinking about things that they teach in the classroom. It's something that they had a passion for, whether it was painting or movies or fitness or any of those things. We're also reaching out to the sports teams, sending them out to see if we can bring in an entire team in there and bring them in together for a camp to build the camaraderie, get that sense of team, and get some work in during the summer. So we've looked at all of those things, and we're talking with people interested in the coaching aspect of it, and then getting that word out to our youth sports groups and stuff, and then the kids on our own teams to bring them back. And, if they can pull the team together for a week in June or July, just make them that much stronger when we get to the fall season or the winter season or the spring season.
To pay for this, are you going to set up a RevTrak thing online, or will people just write checks?
Well, they can, I do believe we have it set up, they can pay online. Pretty much everything we do can be paid online.
Right.
But they can also pay by check, so check or credit card. And,
Right, it's just so easy online.
Flexible on that.
Yeah, okay. I just think it's so easy.
Cash will work.
We don't really like cash, but everything else is good. We'll take it if we have to, but.
Right.
Like all our procedures, if checks are submitted, they're made out to the town of Lunenburg.
Always to the town of Lunenburg.
In the memo line, you can put the summer fun camp or
Okay.
summer fun program. That's, I think most of our parents are familiar with that process, but if you can help us spread that word, because I think that little tidbit was left out of our registration packet. But we're going to update it and reload it. But tomorrow, is it tomorrow?
But it doesn't matter, because
These will be going home?
Yes.
Or they're out in the schools, so at least for kindergarten through 8th grade, hard copies of these will be going home.
Right.
So,
But it says here that they'll get an invoice later anyway,
Right.
correct? You'll
Yep,
sign
they don't
up.
need to send.
It says you get an
Initial
invoice later
payment
anyway,
in.
so
Yep.
it's fine.
Once we figure out, some people have, I've already got several
Yeah.
already, and some are looking for a half day and some like that. So we build a little schedule for them and then let them know what the cost
Right.
is. Some people are adding on like early pickup or early drop-off and late pickup, so we just got to factor that into it.
Okay.
So is there an opportunity for students or for children who live in Lunenburg that maybe they are homeschooled or something like that? Are they welcome?
Anybody is welcome, absolutely.
So even
We'd
anyone
love to
outside
have-
of Lunenburg?
Absolutely. We'd love to have those students who are homeschooled participate, but we haven't made it exclusively for Lunenburg. It's open to any of the students.
Would the thought be priority to Lunenburg residents?
I don't see how we would possibly fill up. We can add on, if
So
we
will
had to.
these be anywhere else, like the library or anywhere else where folks could pick them up if they're not
A resident.
a resident, or maybe they have
certainly
grandkids
just
here
on
for
the
the summer?
website. They can pick them off the website and print them themselves, and they can fill them in online.
and I was going to share it with the neighboring school districts as well, because very frequently, we get a lot of information that we're asked to post to share about summer camps. So we intend to put it in the newspaper. I think it's been in the newspaper.
It has been, yes.
And the Sentinels here, so they'll help us continue. I think, actually, I think the Sentinels already carried this article, because Amanda called several weeks ago and really highlighted this program for us. But first priority does go to Lunenburg residents and students, but we do accept anybody, students from other communities as well.
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful.
It's awesome.
If there's no further questions, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Yeah. I like the cover.
Ms. Verboen?
It's real boy, finally. Well, there you are.
I have a fairly short report for today. This week in Lunenburg has been a week of testing for students. In the middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're all taking math MCAS. And then in the high school, mostly seniors who are taking the AP exams, but those have been running today, tomorrow, and Friday. As Mr. Mackin said, next week is Teacher Appreciation Week and Nurse Appreciation Day, so Student Council has organized a lot of fun things to do next week. And Miss Foyle, are you talking about that? No, you should. Oh, okay. Miss Foyle. Okay, well, Miss Foyle actually recommended or proposed a new sort of thing to do for Teacher Appreciation Week. I know, it's a different approach, but I think Student Council decided today that we're going to tackle it. Her idea was to, instead of necessarily like students bringing in teachers' gifts. They were going to be recommended to bring in a canned good, just to appreciate the teachers, but also to just give back to the community. So we're going to run a food drive kind of in honor of the teachers, but also to be benefiting the town. And then lastly, we have the student officer elections that are going on this week for the school year of 2017-2018. The forms or signups are due this Friday, and then the elections will take place next Wednesday.
And they'll be giving speeches?
Yeah.
All the candidates?
So
Okay.
you get a whole form, you have to get a bunch of signatures.
Yeah.
That and the speech, a copy of your speech is due Friday, and then speeches will be given on Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mackin, could I just jump in for just a second?
Absolutely.
I also wanted to say, I apologize because I think our proclamations, the dates were off. So I just want to review once again that the School Nurse Day is May 10th, and the Teacher Appreciation Week is May 8th through 12th, with Teacher Appreciation Day being Tuesday the 9th. So
Okay.
it is correct in my superintendent's update that went out last night, but I did notice as you were reading here that it must have been a prior year that we thought we
Yeah.
fixed, but didn't.
There was one.
So I apologize for that. I also wanted to acknowledge Mrs. Foyle's here, and she launched for several years, we've been building our community service learning projects, and if we look from kindergarten through grade 8, we have marker community service learning experiences for students to participate in. But the high school has a variety of community service projects that are always going on with the various groups. But this year, Mrs. Foyle actually has an English 4 class that is focused on community service learning. So students are working on the content and curriculum, but they're using those skills that they're using in that curriculum to follow something of their passion and do a community service project. And they're getting ready to do their presentations. But just to let you know of some of the things that the students have been working on, silencing stigmas, the Walden Project, recycling in the schools, the Breakfast Club and Hygiene Helpers. I know they did a collection that will go to our food pantry of products, hygiene products that are being made available as well. And Science in the Schools, doing some research of our science program, sort of nice dovetail in with the renewal projects there in the curriculum, and seniors saving shelters. But the students in that class formed groups. Some worked individually, depending upon what their interests were, as they whittled this down and said, what can we do? What can we accomplish? That's part of the learning process as well, in terms of the amount of time, particularly if you're trying to affect a change that means, a large agency changing or adopting new policy or things like that. That usually takes a while to get through, maybe not within the semester. It's a semester course or a year-long course. But a great opportunity for students to really get to the heart of the matter of why we do this business of learning how to be form a persuasive argument, or learn how government works and how to affect change, and what are the needs out there in our communities, and how can we make a difference for others. So I want to thank Mrs. Foyle for moving forward with that. That's always a big step for teachers, because you let go of a lot of things when you do community service learning. So you're trying to get that content and that curriculum, make sure those skills are in there, but it's very multifaceted in terms of how it all comes about for the students. So we really appreciate that. Also, just a reminder to everyone about our need to do some herbicide treatments on the grass around the new building. So we want to get that notice out there. You'll actually have some maps. I don't know that the email went out today.
Yes, it did. We got
It
it.
did get
Yeah,
out
right
today.
before.
So that information is out there for parents as well as our faculty and staff. It'll be well marked. The good news is that it's dependent upon weather, and if it's dry, it dries in about 2 hours. But we do want to take the care that's necessary. We don't typically do this when school is in session, but our new lawns are requiring this attention, and we want to make sure that we get those established in a manner so we don't have to be doing a lot of this, because we get rid of the weeds now, and that way those lawns fill in, and we don't have to keep doing this. So those were just some highlights that I needed to add as part of my report. Thank you.
Okay, under new business, we are inserting a piece of business on a waiver for our town meeting.
Mr. Mackin received a communication from the town moderator as well as the town clerk, just once again asking, as they have in the past, that the policy and the rules around the auditorium for annual town meeting, because that meeting it's in session from 9 o'clock until 1 or 2 o'clock until it's done. And it's really not a good idea to take a break, because when you take a break, a lot of people say, I'm going home. And so the Lunenburg Women's Club always provides some bagged lunches, as well as having bottled water. And we have in the past granted a waiver, given the special circumstances around annual town meeting, and the taxpayers are part of that meeting, and they're paying for this facility, so we know that they'll be extra cautious in terms of how they manage those products in our auditorium. But we want them to be comfortable so they can do their role as citizens and take care of the important business before the town as well. So just recommend that we extend that waiver to them again this year.
So I'll take a motion to that effect, that the school committee will grant a waiver for the eating of, for food and drink in the auditorium for our annual town meeting.
I make a motion that we accept food and drink in the auditorium for annual town meeting on May 6th, 2017.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific.
And that being done, I do want to stress that it's a special occasion that generates this waiver. And we do appreciate how everybody has cooperated with making sure that those products stay out of our gym and out of the auditorium as we've opened the new building, from our students to parents who are there on Saturdays for basketball games and those kinds of things, because it just extends the life of our facility. So we appreciate everybody's cooperation.
And if they don't, they can be assured of a withering look from Mr. Londa.
Yes. Or Mrs. Sampson.
Okay, memorandum of agreement between the Lunenburg Education Association. I just to summarize, and I want to, emphasize how wonderful this process has been, and it felt like a real partnership between the LEA and the school committee negotiating team in coming up with an agreement that works for both of us and meets both of our needs. It is, I think we've reached our goal of finding something that fiscally responsible, but was equitable and doable and acceptable. And so I'm pleased with it, and I'm going to, recommend its adoption. I want to point out the members of the team, because the whole team was a team together. Didn't feel as if it was, there was one side or another side. It felt like there was a team working together. That was Tim Shays-Green, Tim Normandin, Mary Foyle, Sue DiMatopoulos, Lisa Stone, Dawn Garin, our own Dawn Marie Ailes, of course, our wonderful superintendent comms, and I showed up to the meetings as well. It was this interest-based bargaining process, I think, has yielded a really positive outcome, and if I have a recommendation to future committees, it's to strongly consider it. I think that having established this as a workable process, I think that I'd recommend that folks get to it. To summarize the agreement, I'm not going to read the whole memorandum of understanding, but I'll give you some of the highlights. The salary schedule increases are as follows. For fiscal year 18, it's 2%. For fiscal year 19, it's 1%. For fiscal year 20, it's 1.5%. We've also, in order to meet other needs, have added a longevity for when we looked at salary schedules, we saw that we were very competitive at the beginning of our salary schedule. We became less competitive as the salary schedule went along. And so we have added longevity of 1,900 for year 15 to 19 at step 12, 3,800 from 20 to 24 years at step 12. They have to have 15 years of teaching experience service in Lunenburg, or 20 in each of these steps. They're all in Lunenburg.
Yep.
So 3,800 to step 12 for teachers with 20 years of teaching service in Lunenburg, and 5,700 for step 12 for teachers with 25 years of teaching experience in Lunenburg Public Schools. The contract goes until, it's a 3-year contract. We also did some work around some language that needed to be cleaned up. We have some areas that we're going to be looking at as reopeners in terms of, we have a stipend schedule that needs to be looked at, because there are some positions that are that are shown in the stipend schedule that don't exist anymore. There are those that needed to be added. There's some work around how to create equitability within the stipend schedule, so that's a reopener within the contract.
Evaluation.
The evaluation is also is a reopener in the contract. So I'll first take the superintendent's recommendation.
I just want to echo what you've said, and I feel like this process that we've been that team that have approached that and really got to understand what the concern was, what the problem was, and came to a method to address that. And all the things that we talked about aren't contained in this. I mean, this was a lot of work. We met for 3 hours on Monday evenings for several weeks. I didn't count them all, but there were a lot of them. Was it 10? And so there was a lot of very good discussion and participation, and I certainly recommend that you ratify this agreement. I think it's really in the best interests of our schools and moves us forward in terms of continuing our partnership with the educators to serve our students.
And I would also like to add that I think that one thing that we learned is that not every single issue that we brought to the table and that we discussed is going to have a solution that is going to be the right solution for everyone, but that we were able to come up with some creative ways, some ways that may work for some people, that may work for others, but that were not in the best interest of students, but that were not feasible for both parties, that were not acceptable for both parties, that were not reasonable for both parties, and that were just not going to work. And so once we were able to go through that process, that's where we were able to say, wait a minute, if this isn't going to work and I'm not going to meet the criteria, we're not going to be able to do it. And I think that's where we came together as a group. I'm hard-pressed to think there are a lot of negotiating contract sessions that go on where at the end we're hugging. And that was pretty impressive to me on Monday night as we finished, and the handshaking and the hugging and everyone's clapping, and we took a group picture. So that was pretty impressive to me. I can't wait to see how that came out. So, and a great process. Thank you very much, all of you.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adopt, and then we can open it for discussion, obviously.
I'll make a motion to adopt memorandum of agreement between with the Lunenburg Education Association for fiscal years 18 and 19 and 20.
I second that motion.
Discussion?
No, great job, everybody.
Yeah, thank you both for taking on that challenge.
Yes, everybody.
All those in favor?
Take the time and dedication.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Aye.
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 And just as a footnote, the LEA is meeting on next Tuesday, correct? For their ratification discussion. Voting Wednesday, okay.
Great.
I'll be sending this around for signature.
This side.
Yep.
That's the other side, yeah.
That's why the Post-it note
Oh,
was there.
That's why,
Just
what
to
are you
help make sure, I think there should be.
when all else
3 of
fails,
them.
follow instructions.
There are 3 in this. Mr. McInerney.
See, all the sign here.
Sorry. You know you never can just sign one.
Okay. While that's going around, we can move on to our next item, which is the superintendent's evaluation. I met with Superintendent Combs today and reviewed the evaluation. What I'm going to do is just start by reading the summary. I took folks' comments and kind of blended them in with my comments, so let me just read that as we go along. Superintendent Combs continues to provide a high level of leadership to Lunenburg schools. During this period, she oversaw the completion of long-term plan culminating the opening of the new Lunenburg Middle High School and the reuse of the former middle school as an elementary school, a daunting undertaking that required planning, logistics, and most of all, team building. She's clearly built a high-performing team of administrators. During this period, Superintendent Combs provided leadership to the school committee negotiating team which successfully completed negotiations with the Lunenburg Educators Association, utilizing for the first time an interest-based bargaining approach, judged successful by both parties. Superintendent Combs responds quickly and effectively to parent and community members' concerns and communicates regularly and effectively with the school committee, parents, and the community at large, and is actively present at a great number of school and community functions. Superintendent Combs has made significant progress on her goals, particularly in undertaking a new strategic visiting process. She has facilitated a school committee priority by assisting a school committee advisory committee developing a lifelong learning program. Both are good examples of school and community collaboration. And we have marked under professional practices met, student learning met, and district improvement goals met. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. It's, going through a building project and opening a new school is very exciting. But this year was exciting on so many other levels, given our ability or our opportunity to really then take that facility and work with the educational program. Refreshing this strategic plan for the district has just been a real joy to go through. And I just really, every day, am so grateful for the opportunity to work in Lunenburg, to work with these amazing educators that we have here, and to serve the wonderful students that the parents in this community send to us. So I'm very grateful, and it is really an honor for me to be able to continue to be here with you and do this job. And I appreciate your feedback. I hope that all of you, maybe sometime during the summer, can come in and we can sit down and have more detailed talk. I also want to thank you for supporting that goal of me spending an entire day in a classroom, and that was just an amazing experience and such a delight. And I'm going to look for ways to do that more often going forward, because it really is. It really is one of the best ways to understand what a day in the life of a student looks like, is to be there that whole day. So thank you, and thank you for your feedback.
School choice?
Yes, just wanted to recommend that, given the numbers that we're seeing in 8th grade, now we know that 17 of our students have been accepted to Monty Tech. We know that one student will be moving as well. That's confirmed with the family, and they're already starting the process. They'll be relocating out of state. So that we understand that 16 of the 17 that have been accepted at Monty Tech will plan to attend. And so we had opened 10 slots for our for choice students. We always have this shift between 8th and 9th grade, and that is one area where we look to supplement the students that are leaving Lunenburg with choice students in order to keep our high school population at a level that allows us to do some more diverse curriculum and elective opportunities, as well as the programs that we offer before and after school, or our athletic programs. We know that 2 students will be returning back from private placements or other out-of-district placements from that they're in at 8th grade level into the 9th grade as well. There are 2 names left on the school choice list after our lottery system. And given the numbers that we're seeing and only having 2 additional names that, as we went through that process, at one point in time we had 4, but then some circumstances changed for some of the folks that had initially been in the lottery, and so other people were drawn off the list. My recommendation is to increase and accept those 2 names left on that waiting list in as choice students, and target that money toward taking care of that $15,000 challenge that we have, that I couldn't find a pathway for all of you when we put the budget together to begin with, to bring all our athletics teams into fully being supported. Or at least our ski and our lacrosse team. So that's a funding pathway that with these 2 additional choice slots can make that a reality. So our ski team and our team for the lacrosse, the boys and girls, both varsity and JV, that we don't have that circumstances where the parents are having to either fundraise and students to pay an additional $100 to support those activities. So that's my recommendation of why I'm coming forward. Knowing the numbers now, I feel more comfortable recommending to you that we move those choice slots from 10 to 12. The budget we developed was based upon 10, and so that's why I also feel that with confidence we can really target the additional choice funding that comes with the additional 2 students to address that gap that we were trying to fill with regard to the sports programs. So that's my recommendation.
So with all those number changes, what does that do to the bottom line for the 8th graders moving to 9th grade, as far as how many students?
That puts us about 3 students less than what the current 8th grade is.
Okay.
So it's slightly lower, but ever so slightly. And we'll have some move-ins, I imagine, this summer as well. So I feel comfortable with being able to manage that. I talk in depth to Mr. Spadafino in terms of the impact, and particularly with our additional position, that humanities position. He's very confident that this is a positive move for the high school overall.
Any questions? I'll take a motion to approve.
How do we word that motion? A motion to approve 2 additional choice openings in grade 9 for fiscal year 18, correct? Is that
Correct, you got it.
I make a motion that we accept 2 additional choice slots in grade 9 for fiscal year 18.
So who's the first and who's the second?
Made that motion.
I
You
made the
second.
motion.
No, I did.
I said more than you needed.
It is getting late, I got it.
No, I did. It sounds like the table at
Okay.
my house.
All those in favor?
Aye. Hi, everybody. Oh, my God.
Okay, we have a donation.
We do. I want to acknowledge Walmart recently had a grand opening, and they've done some rebranding with colors and opened up the store and brightened it up. I didn't know that, but when we were invited for the ribbon cutting, I said, "So what have you done? What's happened here?"
long process.
But to recognize that the good folks at the Lunenburg Walmart store have so generously donated $1,000 to each of our schools. Each, so $4,000 total. And so we're just so appreciative for their efforts, and I wanted to name that donation and recommend it to you for acknowledgement.
Take a motion to accept the Walmart donation with our deepest gratitude.
You have to make it.
You have to make the motion. I make the motion that we accept the wall.
Got to work on, so moved.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to all have to go to Walmart, okay?
Quite often, yes. Quite often, yes.
Thank you.
I'll share. all the
Okay, old business, third reading of the Athletic Advisory Council 5607 draft, the 370101, school lunch insufficient funds, negative balance revision, and the 1202 facilities use policy revision. Have we had any further comment from the public?
We have not, Mr. Mackin, and just to highlight a couple of those with our food service program. You know, we continue as almost every school district in the nation, I think, to really work with our parents to make sure that these school lunches are up to date and the money is on account. We have had a policy in the past that students continue to be fed on a regular basis every day, and if then the debts don't get paid, what happens is it goes to collection agencies, and it goes through a series. And I am concerned about that process in terms of the impact that it's having on families. I would like to see us really, by lowering this threshold down to a $12 threshold, and then really doing some more efforts with regard to making sure parents understand that they either need to send a lunch in with the students or get the money on the account. This is not about lunch shaming. We're very concerned about keeping this with the adults and minimizing, if not totally eliminating, the impact on the students. It's going to require a lot more communication from our personnel, from our food service personnel. It's going to require the support of all of our administrators, our school nurses, our counselors. We're at a crossroads here, and this has been a difficult policy to work on because our top priority is making sure that students are well nourished. And I just want to underscore that while this policy is changing and being tweaked, that's still our bottom line, and that we want to work with our families to make sure that we get them the supports that they need to make sure that the children are well taken care of. So I know that this change to where students are going to need to bring that lunch the next day, that if they don't have that lunch with them or if their accounts aren't paid up, then we're going to need to make sure that we're in contact with the parents and that we're getting the parents in to get that lunch there so the student can be fed that day. So that is the pathway forward. There's a lot of work to be done between now and the end of the school year to get everybody on board and understanding how this works. I do feel encouraged that our commitment with the communication piece of this, a very personal and directed communication. We will use our systems, but we're going to have a lot more direct interaction with the families as we go through this process than we have in the past as well. So that's the change that's being recommended in that policy. Also, we are looking at changing our facilities use programs, our policy, to provide for our Lunenburg youth sports organizations. And what we're looking at in this change of policy is basically those organizations will enter into a written agreement with them. There is a set amount that's being recommended for the organizations to pay either when they're out using their fields or the basketball. We've met with all those organizations. Those generally run for a season in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $8,500, depending upon the season and the sport. I think some of the fields for the season, it's about $3,500 that they're paying, but those will be articulated in the agreement. So what we've done is we've gone through this process, and part of this is the funding that will flow through to pay the replacement on the artificial turf, the field and the track. So it's kind of a designated funding stream to that. So most of the policy remained basically the same, except for some adjustments in the language relative to how the Lunenburg youth sports will be the amount will be determined, and then just the agreement that we have in terms of what's everybody's responsibility. So that's a quick overview on that. We went through the 5,000 series and just did updates. There was, we got rid of some old, outdated policy. For example, we don't have a driver's ed program anymore, so we pulled that out of the policy. We also updated, based upon state regulations, the teaching about drugs, alcohol, and tobacco in all the appropriate spots. And finally, one of the other, I think, really exciting new policies that will go into place is the formation of an athletic advisory council. Their role will be much similar to work with the AD. I think the designated members on that are also a representative of the school committee, so if this policy goes through and is put into place, there'll be yet one more committee, that a subcommittee that the members can participate in. So we're looking forward to forming that athletic advisory council and having that group of individuals really work to continue to grow and take a good program to even being a greater program. So, quick overview of some of the policies. They've all been posted online for several weeks now. I think it's been, in addition to the 6 weeks that we typically would have them posted, it's probably been more like 8 weeks at this point in time. So, if you have any questions, they can always be directed, but this is our third reading, and I do recommend approval of these policies.
Take a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve Athletic Advisory Council 5607, 3701.01 school lunch insufficient funds negative balance revision, as well as 1202 facilities use policy revision.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment? Mrs. Foyle, welcome.
Hey, Mary Foyle, 985 Flat Hill Road. So I have 3 different comments with 3 slightly different hats. So first of all, the guilt was eating away at me. As LEA president, Eliza Boyne gave me credit that I did not deserve. The food drive was my idea, but connecting it to Teachers Week was Don Guerin's idea, so I just sit there and take credit. But no, it's been something, the food bank is actually most often utilized on average in a summer, but that's when its resources are its lowest, because it's not a Thanksgiving or Christmas time when people are donating. So I've been meaning to put this together for years, and I decided this year was the year. So the student council and Don Guerin said, oh, that might be an idea, but different buildings may be doing different things, but we are asking LEA to help support the food bank for the summer. As a negotiation team member, I agree that the process was terrific. I've been a fan of IBB for a while, and I look forward to using this process in non-negotiating years to solving some other problems and working together. Lastly, as a teacher, I did send out, but I've had some attachment issues, but I did send out, okay, I know some people had some issues opening it, and I know it's odd times to come and see student presentations, but I did it during the school day. Maybe someday if it's bigger, it'll be at night, I don't know. But they worked really hard at it. They were surprised by how much work it was in the end. I just read their methodologies over the weekend that had a reflection on it. And at one point I was like, do they really mean this, or are they trying to get a good grade? Because their reflections were really, like, one person was like, I can either be affected by the world or affect the world. And I was like, wow. Yeah, so I was like, is this good grades or they mean it? But they seem to mean it. I mean, I said that to them too. And they did learn a lot. They had some failures in there, which we all know happens. So I thought it was a great experience for them, and I'm really excited to see their presentations too. So if you have a chance to join us for any of those, please do so.
Were they all seniors?
Yes,
They
it's
were,
a
right?
senior English
Yeah.
class, so I tried to hit the same requirements. We just did it through a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but senior English class.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Luck?
Phyllis Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. I had a question about the new teacher's contract, the longevity piece. Is it teachers who have been teaching in Lunenburg for 15 to 19 years, get $1,900 added to their salary each year? Is that what that is?
That's correct.
That's correct.
In 20 to 24 years, $3,800, and
Correct.
25 years plus $5,700.
Correct.
Do you know what the impact on next year's budget will be?
Yeah, actually, the overall impact for this entire contract is 6% overall. So it averages out with those, adding those steps. You notice that the rate changes, or the COLAs that we added were 2, 1,
2, 1, and
1.5. And so when you take all the financials.
Teachers also move sideways.
Right, and when you take all the financials, but this contract talks about what that salary schedule looks like. So that's the impact on the salary schedule.
So 6% in the first year?
No. Over the 3 years of the
Lifetime.
contract.
Yeah.
So its average is 2% a year over the life of the contract, all of the economic package.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Alrighty, reports. Finance Committee is going to make their report at the town meeting. PTO?
There was not a meeting since our last.
Okay. Capital Planning, no. PEC salad. Anything? Nope.
No.
Start time?
Nope.
Strategic visioning? School councils?
No, because we went last week.
Any of them?
Last Wednesday.
Really, just had
Anything since last week?
No.
Okay, easy.
The Strategic Planning Committee did meet, the broader group, and they're actually scheduled to meet with the admin team next week to talk about timelines around the overall suggested goals and activities that are tied back to the vision. So that's where that process, so we're on target to bring that forward to the committee end of May, first part of June, on the timelines we anticipated. And I know the Lifelong Learning Committee is going to be presenting their, on the 24th. Yeah, their report on the 24th.
Anything for future discussion?
I actually have something.
Go ahead.
It's something we have touched on at other points in time. I'd love on a future agenda to put our thinking caps on about a possible way to district-wide ask people to give proof of residency again. I know we've sort of talked about it.
Yes.
But now I think very little goes out in mail to folks anymore in an effort to, families. So we have less and less way to actually see if someone has moved. And I think in this town, we are battling class sizes that are bigger than ever. So it would, I think, be in good interest for us to look at a way. I know it's manpower hours to do this, I know it, but there's something on the flip side to be looked at as well. So I'd just love for us to possibly discuss that again about a possible way to do that in the future.
Great.
Yep. Good point. Yep.
Alrighty. All right, as my parting shot, I want to just say thank you again, and it's been a real honor to serve. It really has been. And we'll see each other again. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.